Hello friends, so today I am drawing this little acorn. They're one of my favorite fall elements to draw. I just think they're so cool. So let me go through supplies real quick. If you don't need this, just pass on by. You won't hurt my feelings. But for those that might be new, let's just go through those really quickly. So today I'm actually using, I have Artisto, which is great. If you're a beginner, Artisto's fabulous, you guys. Use Artisto. I just got my new pack today. You know what I love about, here's a couple things I love about Artisto. Number one, I have tons of these. I journal them all. Again, if you've seen this, just pass on forward. I have a timestamp for you down below. This is my summer 2024. And isn't the cover even beautiful? But these have absolutely fantastic, I love the feel of them. They're a cold press 140 pound and they're perforated. So if you want to tear it out and give it to somebody, or you want to tear it out and tape it down because you want to use a lot of water, you can do that. So that's those. But today I'm using my cold press 140 pound. These are the 9x12 sheets, but they're 100% cotton. They're by Meeden. So if you're out of the US, Artisto can be a little pricey and harder to get. So you can substitute this Meeden. They're the two papers I use all the time. Love them both. This is a block style, which just means it's sealed on all edges, and you just use this handy dandy little goodie here that they actually send to you with your Meeden paper typically. If not, you can always ask them for it. One of my viewers, thank you so much, Tina, she actually sent this to me, and you just slip it in the side and go around and you loosen up that seal. So let's turn this the right way. So I drew some little acorns, and I think what I'll do for you, oh, let me finish my supplies. So I'm also going to be using my MeiLang palette. As you know, love this palette. Again, great beginner palette. It's a student grade palette, but it's fantastic. It's made by Paul Rubens, who I love. Paul Rubens is one of my main pigments that I use, and the MeiLang palette. So this is made by them, but look at the colors. If you're a student, you don't want to be dealing with trying to get a bunch of colors. You just want to be playing at first. I'm just wetting them. That activates them, gets them all nice and soft. And look at all that range of colors, reds, blues, greens. I love all their browns. So it's very transparent, but really creamy and vibrant. So I just can't say enough about those. And then let's see, I'm using my brushes. These aren't out quite yet, but I hope you'll all join me because I will be doing a launch on September 13th. Yes, it's Friday the 13th, 2024. And crossing my fingers that we're going to change the meaning of September 13th, Friday the 13th, right guys? So you get 5 brushes. Let me find them all. Here we go. And today for this, I think I will predominantly use my long round, which I love because it's a little bit longer. And I just love it. It's after the Princeton brush, the long round brush, which if you've been watching me, you see I use that a lot. But you also get a filbert, an angle, all the brushes I love for florals. This really fun cat's tongue, and you get this big old bad boy. And just look at the handle, you guys. Like, doesn't that just make you want to run into your studio and paint with them? It does me, but I'm kind of weird. Okay. So with that being said, I'll also be working with my little Meeden Daisy palette. I don't clean my palette because I kind of like the way it looks. I think that's art in itself. And it just, I have kind of my favorite colors in here. So I tend to leave those in there. Okay. And then of course, I was just playing with this, so it isn't probably as clean as it should be, but always use a wash and a rinse water. This is the Meeden, which I love. I don't mess around anymore with plastic cups and things because I've had too many oopsies spilling them, and this just looks pretty on my desk. Always wash your brush. really, really good, and then give it a good rinse, because you don't want to mix those colors or your colors could turn muddy because watercolors are so transparent. Okay, so I think the colors I'm going to use on this are, let me grab a swatch sheet. I always have little extra pieces of paper that I do my swatches on. So let me grab that. Here we go. And I know a lot of you have been having fun with this swatch stamp. Let me find mine. Here we go. And I kept forgetting to put it in my description. By the way, I'll put all my things I've bought. I'll share my links in the description below. So if you're looking for this, you need to get the rubber stamps. And then you just buy, which you guys taught me this, so thank you, these acrylic blocks to set them on. So I'll put those in there. And then just a black, I use Ranger ink pad. So those will be there. Also, by the way, because it's going to be a really limited release of my brushes. I'm a small artist, you guys. So, you know, it's going to be a limited quantity. But here's the link right here. You can sign up for them just, you know, to tell you when they're released. They will be at a special promotion price on the 13th, Friday the 13th. And on that day, you guys, I'm going to do a live painting and give away a pink flower painting to one of you. So just some fun little catch-up facts there. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just ink up my swatch sheet. Put it on here, and like I said, I'm always cutting just extra pieces of paper and using them as swatches or a practice to see what colors I want. So I think for the Acorn, I kind of know the colors I want to use. Let me grab my brush. Let's see, that's the wrong brush. This one, MeiLang Round. And let's see, I think the colors I want to use will for sure be the yellow ochre. So because we'll be painting wet and wet, you want to have your paints ready to go. So go ahead and mix those colors. You always start lighter to darker, because you can't, because watercolors are so transparent, you can't really go lighter. You build layers to get darker and darker. So I mix about a 50-50, 50 pigment, 50 water. And that's what I'm doing here. So I've got that ready to go, because if you're painting wet and wet, if you don't have your paints ready to go, by the time you get them in a palette, your paint on your art may have dried, and then you're no longer wet and wet. So just mix up your colors you want. Make sure you've got them ready to go. I'm just going to color this in here. This is what I share in my kits as well, my little $2.50 kits, just in case. I know a lot of you ask me, well, what's in that? Why would I even want that? There you go. Okay, so there's the yellow ochre. I'm also going to use that beautiful, I love the MeiLang, Paul Rubens MeiLang. I love the sienna. Look at that. Isn't that like the perfect acorny color? So I'll just put that right here, and then I'll label all of these. And there we go. Okay. And I'll probably use like a Van Dyke brown. Love the Van Dyke brown. So I'll put that in here just for some of the darker areas in the acorn. So there we go. That's all ready. And maybe I'll put this right here. I know I'm kind of getting these all smushed together, aren't I? That's okay. And we've got our olive green. You probably have your go-to green. Olive green is kind of that go-to for me. So there we go. And then lastly, my sap green or tree green. So I'm gonna put that in here, get that ready to go. So I've got all my colors, they're all ready. So once I start working on my painting, I don't have to go back and try and get that color. Meanwhile, my painting's drying. So here we go. There we go. And I will label all of these. Okay, so that's kind of my Acorn go-to colors. All right, let's start first with our acorns. I'm just gonna give them a wash of that yellow ochre. Oh, by the way, I used some, let's see, where is it? I used some wax crayon just to create some white spots. Can't remember where I put it now. I think I put it right here. I think. There we go. Now it'll show up when I paint over it. Only thing, guys, about using white crayon or any type of wax, you can't, it's gonna stay white. Like you can't paint over it, where with masking you can put it down and then you can kind of peel it off and paint over it. So you can't do that with this. Pick up a little bit more yellow. I'm actually going to go over this entire thing. I always have so much fun painting these. I think they're so fun. There we go. This is just a wash to start with. There we go. And we'll do this one here. So it looks like I did already have some crayon there. So my little white area might be a little bit bigger than I would normally go, but that's okay. Just wetting, again, we're just creating the first wash here, but look at those fun white spaces I was able to save without having to try and paint around the white spaces. Now, you know, as you progress in your skills, you do want to be able to save those white spaces. Now I'm going into that yellow sienna, and I'll just drop in. We're going to do some wet and wet here. And again, this is our first layer. So we're going to be building colors here. But while this is wet, I'm going to go ahead and drop this in. And also remember, watercolors dry lighter. So look at that beautiful base coat. I'm going to add a little bit more of that yellow sienna just so I have it ready to go here. Scrape off my brush. And then I might even go into that dark. You could use your burned brown, your Van Dyke brown, burnt sienna. And I'm just going to go along this back area because my light source would be coming from here. That's why I have these white spots. Look how great that wax crayon works, by the way. So I'm going to dot in a bit there, same on the acorn little cap, because that is where my shadow side is. And again, this will lighten up as it dries. I'm just using the tip of my brush here too, light pressure. There we go. Look how beautiful already. Let's go in and grab a little bit more of that Van Dyke brown. Ooh, this is where it really starts feeling like it's taking some shape. I love this. So my watercolor is starting to dry a bit. So that's why it's not spreading quite as much, which is fine. There we go. Maybe just a tad over here. Darken that up. Just a tad here and there. There we go. Maybe just a tad more down here. Okay, look how fun already. So I'm gonna kind of let that just do its thing for a second here. I might want to put in some more of that nutmeggy sienna. Tapped in here and there. I just love that color. And then what I might even do, I don't have a tissue, but I have a paper towel. Pardon my old messy paper towel. And I can even pick up a little here and there. because we're going to be doing layers, so I'm not real concerned. Now, while that's drying, let's go in and play with our leaf here. Okay, these are kind of some big leaves, so I'm going to probably work in sections. And the main thing to doing that is don't dot your paint in all the way to where your water stops, because you want it to kind of blend. You don't want it to go all the way to the edge, or you'll end up with a hard edge. And I'm not puddling here. I'm just putting a nice shiny glaze. So fun. Now watch this. Here's the magic of watercolors coming. I'm going to go into my lighter green, and I just start tapping in here and there. Look at that. Now my water line is down here, so I'm going to end about right here because I want to keep that soft line. Now the other thing I'll do is go in with a little bit of that dark. And I literally just leave this here and let the watercolors blend for me. I could kind of blow on it, excuse my head, just like that. And then what I'm going to do is clean my brush and continue that water, that shininess, down like this. There we go. Using that beautiful point. That's why I made these brushes snappy, so you can get that stiff point there. And now I'll just do what I did up here. But look at how beautiful that already is. It's already got a nice coloration, real interesting. Just tapping in while it's wet on wet. Now some of that darker. There we go. Now before this dries, I know I'm working kind of fast, but I want to go in and do that stem in the brown. And I think I'll use, let's see, I'm going to use my Van Dyke or my burnt sienna and go in while that's wet, because I love when my browns mix with my greens, and just create this little stem here. There we go. Now I took a little bit of paint off and I dabbed some of that away. Let's put in a tiny bit more here so it blends in there, and then I'm gonna let that dry. Let's see, what was I gonna get? Oh, maybe just a tiny bit of green. Just tapping in here and there. Maybe even a touch of gold, yellow ochre, tap, tap, tap. Yeah, that's pretty. We can even put some of that yellow ochre in here, because these fall leaves have lots of beautiful colors. But look at that beautiful blend. Isn't that pretty? Now for some extra fun, I could grab, let's just grab a little scraper here, and we can scrape in some lines. There we go. Fun, fun, fun. So we'll start getting some lines in there. Let's go ahead and go back to our acorns. They seem like they're dry, and we're gonna start adding some more. What I'll do is I will wet this again. It's still a little bit wet. Let's go ahead and do our other leaf here. So same thing, because if I go into this right now, because it's damp, if it was perfectly dry, we'd be fine. But because it's still a little damp, if I go in right now, we're gonna get that bloom, which I don't fret too much over those guys, to be quite honest. But that must have been, I don't know where that blue came from. I was playing with some Brusho this morning, which I'm really excited to share that with you guys. But I think that's where that came, that little blue bit. You know what? Perfectly okay. And then we go back into our green, just start dabbing in. Now I went up all the way to the edge there, didn't mean to do that. There we go. So before that dries, I'm going to go in. I don't want to necessarily touch that because otherwise they'll just completely bleed together. So I left a little bit of a white space there. Pick up some of that green paint. Might have to grab a little bit more of that. Just to give some interest here. There we go. Now maybe some of that dark olive green, we'll tap in some of that as well, especially down here near the base. While this is wet, there we go. Using that point. Oh, now that might blend a little bit, that's okay. And then again, before this dries, I want to go in, oops, I forgot a little area over here. Before this dries, I want to go in. The other thing you can do too is drop in some water. That always makes for some fun effects. Just drops of water. And create that little stem there. Now, if you have too much water on your brush, just, oops, didn't mean to go into that. Oh, darn it. I had a little bit of white there for some reason. You can tap off. Tap in there. There we go. And then I'm going to leave that a little darker because it's kind of behind this one. So I think it's okay to leave it a tiny bit darker. So it looks like it's behind the other one with a bit of a shadow. There we go. Maybe add in just a touch of green. Maybe the olive green. There we go. Oh, look how pretty that is. Now, sometimes if it's just one solid color, I will lift a little or do something just to make it a little bit more interesting. Look at how much more interesting that is. Okay, let's see if these feel pretty dry. Oh, you know what? Let's scrape in our little veins here. So just using a card. This card's old, you guys, so you know what? Nobody can grab the number because it's not a good card. And I'm just putting in these little veins. What this will do is it'll get dark, see, like that. So it just gives it some texture, some interest. Okay, let's go into our acorn here. And what I'm going to do is just lightly put a little bit of water on there so I can go back into that with some color like that. I want to use a little bit more of that yellow sienna. Ooh, isn't that pretty? And then I will go back into this and just wet that area. You don't want to move around too much in there because you can reactivate the paint on the bottom. So we don't want to do that. And then I'm just picking up some of that burnt sienna and just putting that in there. And we'll do the same here. So just a light wash of water, put it down and let it be. And then pick up some of that yellow sienna, tap, tap, tap. Look how pretty those are. Okay, let's go into the little cap there. Oh, you know what? Let's get it wet first. Now it's not going to, because I put that wax crayon, these in there, those white areas, they're done. I can't do anything to those. Really want more of a brown in there. So let me get my darker brown. There we go. See how that dark value is really like making that feel like it's the bottom of the acorn, like there's some parts underneath. Let's wet this one. Didn't get that one wet. And do the same thing here. This one might even be a little bit darker because it's kind of shadowed there. There we go. And I'm going to go into the little stems while it's wet. So I got some green. There we go. Look how pretty so far. Isn't that great? I'm looking at something real quick here. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So what else do we want to do? We want to maybe put some lines in there. So I'm going to use the very tip of my brush, a little bit of paint, and let's just go in and create some of those lines. Like that. Doesn't that make the biggest difference? Something so small, but it makes that big difference, doesn't it? That's a little wet, so I'm gonna wait there. Now what I wanna do here is I wanna create, you know, acorns have kind of those little textury pieces in them. And I'm gonna let that dry a bit. Look how fun that is. They also have a little button on the bottom. So let's just do that little button. Just very tiny detail. I love sometimes putting in just that tiny detail because it's like you notice it, but you kind of have to get in there and go, is that what I'm seeing? I love leaving a little bit to the imagination of my viewers. Now I'm gonna really, this works better with a tissue, but I'm gonna crumple up so I have all these little tiny grooves and just tap in there a bit to give it some texture. Now once this is dry, I'll go in there as well. All right, I see I missed a little leaf, so let's get that little guy. Going back into my tree green, into my palette here. There we go. Get some more. And then tap, tap, tap on the side. And let's, oh, you know, and this one I didn't wet first. So let's get that little guy wet. And let's go in with some of our olive green. Not too much though. There we go. Because I'll show you what I'm going to do. So that's about it. I might go in with a tiny bit of the gold. There we go. And then that little stem with our brown. Let me grab some of my brown. Ooh, so pretty. Love when it spreads like that. I think I'll just take a tiny bit of that brown too and just add some little spots underneath that branch just to make it look, again, just sometimes the tiny, tiny, tiny little details can make a big difference. And I can see this is kind of wet still because It's just a little shiny. And actually, you know, let me just hit it with my handy dandy dryer here. There we go. And I can tell when it's dry because it'll get real flat and it'll be lighter. There we go. Hook that up. And let's see. I think what I want to play with, I'm going to go in with some of that yellow ochre and put it on the side over there. Now I've got quite a bit of wax over there because I kind of forgot where I put it. And then I ended up putting more. Kind of funny. There we go. And now I can go in with just the tip of my brush. And if you need a little water, just a tiny bit. But light, light touch and not very much water. And I'm going to go in and tap in again just to kind of define that cap. And then maybe that line like that. So we have some of those fun, you know, I'm always trying to find like what is recognizable about different things I paint. And that is one of them for me. And then I want to go in with just light pressure, but look how close I'm holding to the belly, the bottom, the ferrule, because that gives me some more. So I'll just go in here and add some little pieces for that acorn cap, just little squiggle lines. You don't have to get real nitpicky here, but look how fun. Pick up a tiny, tiny bit more in here, just to create some interest. And look, isn't that so fun? Now we could go in here and play a little bit more. You could quit right now. It looks great. You could be done. But let's play a little bit with some of these veins. Like, let's just darken them up a little. So I'm laying down that wash, just water, and then let's go in with a tiny bit of dark green and go right along where that vein is, like that. Now you don't have to do this. It's just something kind of fun. And I could go in with some more, like that. Maybe down here. Just bring some interest in. Maybe a little bit of that gold. And I just barely touched into that with the tip of my brush. Let's get this side wet. I'm kind of avoiding that vein a little bit, but you know what? Even if you touch into it, you can always lift out. So if you wanted that vein to be more light colored, you can just lift up. Then let's go in here. Just creating some fun. There we go. And do this again. Drop in some color in there. And our other side over here, again, you could have stopped just exactly where it was and it would be perfectly fine. I'm just adding some more colors and things And I don't practice these things, guys, before I get on here. Sometimes I do, but for the most part, I don't. So I'm creating this with you right now. We're all kind of sitting here, hanging out, doing our thing, but that creates some fun. Now, what I wanted to do here is I want that part of the leaf to fold over. So I'm going to grab me some dark green, some of that olive green, and I'm going to come in here, point, press, and lift up. And look at it, just makes it look like it's curled over. Point, press, and begin to lift up. See that? Isn't that fun? And you could really do that anywhere on your leaf. Let's keep going. And you know what? We almost don't even have to do this one. How about if we do this? Let's put a light wash on here. Let me pick up a little bit more of that green. And I wanted to show you how you could lift out those veins. So there we go. Maybe some of that yellow ochre. Let's soften the edges just with a damp brush. So it's easier to lift if you have a darker color. So I've got a pretty, actually, I'm going to use this because it's a little bit sharper. And let's see if we can lift some of this out. So it did lift, but like I said, the darker the color, the easier to lift. So it is lifting a bit. There we go. I could even use my little tissue and lift. So just some fun things you can do there. Yeah, I think that's good. I feel like I want to darken this edge a little bit because it's kind of tucked under this one. So let's just darken that up a bit. Oops, that's not. Let's get my darker brown. There we go. And really almost this one is tucked a little bit behind there, I see. Because of the way I just did that. But really, I intentionally wanted that one to be behind. So there's some fun things there. All right, well, I think I'm going to stop before I get too carried away here. And you guys can play with this. You can also, so I scraped some of these lines. I added some in with paint like I'm doing right now. Lots of different ways you can add those veins and such. Look at that. That was a really dark one. I just, you know, sometimes I just want to keep playing and seeing what I get. That's how I really discover so many wonderful things. Now that spread a little, so I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of that. Just with a damp, thirsty brush. So if you don't like what that starts doing, how it'll kind of spread out, you just pick it up. All right, I'm going to stop now. I hope you guys will give this a try. It's a lot of fun. I showed you various techniques, which I'm always trying to do for you so that you kind of get that feeling for what you can do with watercolors. And, you know, just thank you so much for being here with me. You guys are the best for the most part. I'm here, you know, trying things out and playing and learning with you as well. So we're doing this really together. And that's what I love about this group. If you are interested, I do have a Watercolors Beginners Online course. It's fabulous. There's lots of lessons. We do perspectives and washes and drawing and go over your supplies. And at the end, you make a really cool painting. So if you want to do that, you can check it out right here. Just click on that link. And it's really doable, fun, because I feel like when you're having fun, you're going to create amazing things. When you're stressed and tight and worried, you know, you can see that in your art. So there you are. I hope you give this a try. I will make a little kit, $2.50 for you, with the drawing, the swatch. I'll put the colors, and most of all, just thank you for being here. I can't wait. It's fall. I can't wait. I'd love to hear what you're doing and what maybe you'd like to see more of. And happy painting, you guys. Again, I'm going to stay here and keep reminding you, you are an artist. You are already an artist. Let's play and have fun. And I will see you soon.